Do you ever have those days where your brain just doesn't feel like it's turned on? It's almost like your phone when you're in a poor reception area and you can't seem to search the web, or your Google Maps isn't working if you're exploring a new part of the world. That is brain fog. And brain fog is one of the biggest issues in our society today because it keeps you from being engaged and present. You have this lack of affect when it comes to your projects that you're working on. And brain fog really wastes a lot of time, and time is one of those resources that we can never get back. So today I'm going to link up the connection between brain fog, leaky gut, and thyroid issues because surprisingly, your hormones and the bacteria in your gut may have far more to do with brain fog than how well your brain actually functions, because actually you're super smart, and even if your IQ is low, who cares? I mean, you've got this amazing brain that is so, if you look at it computationally, it is massive. I mean, it's more powerful than any computer on the planet. However, that's not going to be the case in a few years from now. But right now, I mean, we have this incredible thing between our ears, and the most beautiful thing that artificial intelligence will never be able to duplicate is the ability to find meaning in life and to find that connection. And when you have brain fog, you don't feel those emotions of peace, of love, of joy. You feel confusion, and you feel frustration. You feel tired, fatigued. You just feel like, literally, like there's a lid placed over your brain, and you can't process things as well. You don't smell as well. Food is not as fun to eat. Nothing in life is as enjoyable. And so let's dig into what the root cause of this is. Because if we can understand how we can get your brain turned on, get you feeling better, your life is going to be substantially changed by this. So dig into this today and really start to apply some of these things and think about what your cause may be. So we're going to talk a lot about causes today. I'll give you a few solutions that I found to be very effective. And then if this is an episode that you think other people could benefit from, then forward it on to them. Let people know about the causes of brain fog, leaky gut, thyroid issues, and how to reverse those things, because that can change someone's life forever. And that's my goal when I put on these podcasts, when we do these presentations, these webinars. What we're really looking for is, how can we change people's lives? How can we really make an impact in your health? And that's our goal here at East West Health, at Go Wellness, is to really make an impact, not just in an individual's lives, but in the health of our entire country and our entire world. So let's dig in. So brain fog, leaky gut, thyroid issues, what we found is they rob you from your personality spark. I mean, I know the days where my brain is not turned on, and I used to have these a lot more often than I ever did in the past, but I had the issues with autoimmunity. Many of you have heard my story. I was exposed to lots of chemicals as a kid working on a farm, and that caused my immune system to really reject a lot of the foods that I was eating. I would reject my own body, my own tissue, my skin. I developed psoriasis. I had elevated thyroid peroxidase enzymes in my thyroid. And what happened is I had a systemic inflammation. And so most days it would take me a few hours just to get my brain working. I remember being in school, and when my brain would turn on, man, I could just fly through assignments. I would get everything done. I would do it fast. I would do it well. It was succinct. When my brain wasn't working, it was almost like an on-off switch. When it wasn't working, I was napping. I was daydreaming. I was thinking about, being outside of the classroom. There was nothing, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't force myself into turning my brain on. And so the root cause that I found was the autoimmunity and the inflammation. And what you'll see is a lot of people, when you look at the causes of brain fog, what we think of is we'll say, oh, this person's got brain fog. Let's make up a disease called ADD or ADHD. And then let's just try and push things through, because with brain fog, the frustrating thing is it's like, yes, you're still thinking, you have thoughts, but you can't process the thoughts you want. Your thoughts lead to emotional strain. They lead to frustration. They lead to stagnation. It's really difficult for you to feel present in your relationships, to feel connected. because you're not processing those thoughts all the way through. So it's almost like there's a cog in the system. The wheel gets a stick in it, and you're flying over the handlebars. You've got nowhere that you can take your brain. And inflammation, how are we treating this anyways? I mean, if you look at what doctors are doing, yes, it's let's make up a disease, let's give you a prescription drug. Now, prescriptions in our country, they're killing hundreds of thousands of people. We think they're safe because they've went through some type of third-party testing, which most of the time it's not. It may be a third party that's brought in and paid for by the pharmaceutical company. Most of the members of the FDA, there's a lot of research that proves that they are being paid under the table, or they're hired after their stint with the FDA by the pharmaceutical companies. So you got to be careful on how we're treating this in Western medicine, because a lot of times it's not really getting to the root cause. And from the research I've found, it can be very dangerous, because prescription drugs that are properly prescribed are causing over 128,000 deaths per year in the United States. And on top of that, there's another 200,000 deaths in Europe. So we've got to do something different if we want to get a different result. We followed the food pyramid. Many of you know about the decades, and I've talked about the origins of the food pyramid and the anti-fat movement. That anti-fat movement has done more harm to our brains than almost anything else. The only other drug that may have done more harm is statins, cholesterol-lowering drugs, when it comes to government and pharmaceutical marketing that has really downplayed our intelligence in our country. Food pyramid, how many of you followed that? I mean, I grew up in a house where, yes, we followed the food pyramid very well, but it was to the detriment of our own health. I mean, if you look at that, if you're eating 6 to 11 servings of bread, cereals, pastas, rice, that's a recipe for inflammation and a recipe for brain fog. So if you look at cholesterol, you look at the statin-lowering drugs, I mean, kind of interesting, but research that was done by Doctors Bowden and Sinatra, this is not Frank Sinatra, even though that would be cool if he was a reincarnated medical researcher, but anyway, it shows that cholesterol-lowering drugs might be the single worst group of drugs for your brain. Memory loss is now required to be listed as a side effect on the label. 1/4 of your brain is composed of cholesterol, and cholesterol is necessary for memory, learning, and fast thinking. Cholesterol is needed to make neurotransmitters. Now, those neurotransmitters are dopamine, serotonin, anandamide, epinephrine, GABA, norepinephrine. All these neurotransmitters are key for your brain to turn on, for you to feel alive. Statins have been pushed on the public because they're among the most profitable prescription drugs in the world. Now, if you think about how much money these drugs are making, it's in the billions of dollars every single year, the tens of billions of dollars on statins. And if you look at the former CEO of Merck, what he wanted to do is get everybody on the planet on a cholesterol-lowering drug. And so what he was doing is searching for other opportunities to use statins, not just for cholesterol, but maybe for enhancing. They actually had some studies released that showed cholesterol-lowering medications actually enhance memory and decrease incidences of Alzheimer's and dementia. And those studies were turned upside down. That research was completely bogus and invalid. Even the research when it comes to statins and drugs that lower blood pressure, they're not doing anything to reverse heart disease, which is what we try and scare people with. Like, in this ad for Lipitor reduces risk of heart attack by 36%. Well, yeah, that's all fine and dandy until you look at the asterisk. And then you look at the asterisk, and that means in a large clinical study, 3% of patients taking a sugar pill or placebo had a heart attack, compared to 2% of the patients that had a heart attack in the placebo group. This is a massive study of 3,600 people, 1,800 people in both groups. 3% one group had a heart attack, 2% in the other group. I call that just coincidence. There's nothing meaningful in that number. Even the New England Journal of Medicine in 2010, they did a study involving more than 33,000 people, and they concluded medications did not reduce heart disease despite lower blood pressure, lower blood sugar, lower cholesterol, nor a combination of these factors. In fact, the study revealed many devastating side effects, including an increased risk for cardiac event. Now look at that, and they didn't mention anything about memory, but once again, you go back to it, and these statin drugs are the single worst group of drugs for your brain. So what happens if your brain's not working properly? Well, we all know that we're not going to be as productive. We may not plan for the future as well because we can't get out of the past or the present. We may have this inflammation that starts in our digestive system. We may make poor eating choices when we have brain fog because we're looking for sugar. I mean, I've been there. You're just reaching for anything that will give you just a little bump. You grab that cup of coffee and you're saying, "Please, Jesus, make this heal my brain." But the coffee, in a lot of cases, maybe it helps for 10 minutes, but it usually makes things worse downstream. You're looking for chocolate. You're looking for sugar. You're just reaching for whatever carbohydrate you can get your hand on to really light up your brain. Then you try and you'll eat whatever it takes. But really where this whole process starts of brain fog is your digestive system. And if your digestive system, if you don't chew your food properly so that you start breaking down those sugars, and if you don't have the right hydrochloric acid, your food's going to putrefy in your gut, and that putrefied food is going to give you acid reflux and bloating. You're going to want to take omeprazole or some type of antacid, and hopefully it's got calcium in it because these can be calcium blocking. No, I mean, it's crazy. What it is you don't have enough acid to actually digest the food in the first place, so it's getting putrefied. So take some betaine hydrochloride. This is one of the first things for brain fog. That will help the digestive process up front. And then as it hits the small intestine, then you can really start absorbing proteins. So take some digestive enzymes as well. And then once the food passes through your small intestine, it starts to ferment in your large intestine. And believe it or not, the bugs and bacteria in your large intestine are in large part responsible for making neurotransmitters. So then those bugs start making neurotransmitters, your brain lights up, you've got the proper levels of epinephrine, norepinephrine, noradrenaline, you're awake, and you don't even need Ritalin for that. All you needed is some good bacteria. So take some good probiotics. We have one called a Prescript Assist. It's a broad spectrum prebiotic and probiotic formula. And I've been taking that for months, and I love it. I eat, like I mentioned, for breakfast. I ate some poi today. I happen to be in Hawaii, which is amazing. I ate an avocado, and I ate kimchi. And it's like superfood for the bugs in my gut. My brain is feeling great. If your digestive system, if it gets backed up, you're going to end up with a condition called leaky gut. Now, I've talked a lot about leaky gut on the podcast and in our webinars and shows. Leaky gut can be caused by too much stress, too high levels of toxins, food particles. Food particles, that can be like gluten, that can be soy, that can be corn, that can be any types of sugars. Sugars, we don't want you eating more than 25 grams of fructose in a given day. Unless you're in Hawaii, then you can eat lots of fruit because you're probably on vacation. But for those residents in Hawaii, sorry, 25 grams. Drugs, the NSAIDs, those can be the biggest culprits of leaky gut. They cause perforations in your intestinal wall, and then undigested food particles leak through, and that triggers an entire host reaction. So you have the 80%, 70 to 80% of your immune system resides right around your intestinal wall, and so if food particles that are undigested leak through, that causes massive reactions in your immune system. And then what does your immune system do? It starts looking for other tissues to attack. And your thyroid is one of the very first systems that gets attacked because your thyroid is assaulted by fluoride, chlorine, bromine, all those preservatives in the bread, in the cleaners, the chemicals in our water and our toothpaste. Those things compete with iodine and kick iodine out, and then your thyroid gland becomes very toxic very quickly when you're exposed to massive amounts of chemicals. Even if you're on birth control, ladies, those estrogens can block thyroid production as well. So your thyroid hormones go down. That's why you may have gained all that weight when you started getting the Depakote shot or when you started on those birth control pills. So you got to get rid of those, a lot of those massive hormones. Pathogens like yeast, organ malfunctions, these are all causing leaky gut. Some of the biggest organ malfunctions that we see is fatty liver disease. That's the biggest one. If your liver is healthy, you're going to have far less chances of getting leaky gut. So what do you fix? What do you focus on? Take more glutathione, take more activated charcoal. Those are two things that can really help your liver perform better. Milk thistle, you can take that occasionally, maybe once a month and go off a month. Once a month, off a month. Bupleurum is another great herb for your liver. Massage it every night. Take some cod liver oil. Cod liver oil is beautiful for turning on your brain and fixing any types of imbalances in the liver. And then the other thing is do a little bit of apple cider vinegar and water, put some lemon juice in there, and that's a great liver tonic, liver and gallbladder tonic. So these are some things. You're wondering, oh, Reagan's talking about digestion. I thought we were talking about brain fog. Well, these things will help cure the brain fog. They'll reverse it so your brain actually gets turned on. Avoid those foods I talked about. And then the final thing I want to talk about are neurotransmitters, because neurotransmitters, if you want to have a brain that's turned on, you want to have good, healthy neurotransmitters. So one way that you can do this is by engaging in activities that really stimulate neurotransmitters. So if you look at Flow State and The Rise of Superman, it's a book I've mentioned several times, but there's some great things that you can find in there about getting into flow state, because if you have the right amounts of serotonin, now one of the things you're going to need to create enough serotonin is you want to eat plenty of tryptophan. Tryptophan, you're probably thinking turkey. Turkey's okay, but it's not the safest meat. It's suspect, to say the least. But you can get it from avocados. You can get tryptophan from certain seaweeds, and you can also get tryptophan from different meats. There's a little bit of tryptophan in some grass-fed beef. You look at cortisol, norepinephrine. This is when your brain is going into the beta brainwaves, and this can be more of a struggle. The beta brainwaves, this is what we want to keep our brains out of, because beta is when our brains, it's like the computational powers are really pushing us. It's like 16 cycles per second in the beta. So when you finally get into the alpha brainwaves, that's when your brain can release. So in order to keep that stable, take some GABA. About 750 milligrams of GABA every day can help keep you in more of an alpha and beta. It can keep you between that stage where you can still get things done, but you're in a relaxed state. The best state for flow is where you have the theta and gamma brainwaves. Now this is where you get dopamine, endorphins, and anandamide. Those all get released. Now anandamide, some people use recreational drugs like marijuana for anandamide stimulation. I don't recommend this on a regular basis, because what it can do is get your brain dependent on this outside chemical. So you want to create it endogenously. You want your brain to create it. Sometimes you may need a little help, but in general, if you can find a flow state, find an activity that you really like, that challenges you, pushes you, it's novel. Do some public speaking, get on a mountain bike, do some skiing or snowboarding if you're in South America right now. Get out there and do those things, because they can secrete anandamide, dopamine, endorphins. Dopamine is also when you get projects done. So start something new, finish it. There is a great way to get in a flow state. If you're looking for supplementation, that's where a formula called Siltep, it's made by Natural Stacks, is a great supplement for this. Because some of the symptoms that come if you don't get this release, this recovery stage, if you don't get the oxytocin, if you're going through and not allowing your brain to go through a little bit of struggle, you have the release where you have the breakthrough, that's why I like to read every day. Then what happens is your brain, you can't get into that flow state. And if your brain is not constantly working through all these neurotransmitters and these different stages, then what happens is you're going to be more prone to get brain fog. And meditation is one of the best things you can do for your brain on a regular basis. So yesterday I had the beautiful experience of attending a meditation class from a very powerful woman named Anna. And Anna is from India, and she just really helped illustrate the power of meditation and turning off your monkey mind. And it really was, it was an impactful hour of my life. I came out of there and I came up to my wife and kids and I said, man, everything looks different. I mean, I've meditated for over a decade, and it's just incredible. But Meditation, I tell my patients, I'm telling you, meditation is like similar to doing a workout for your muscles. If you want big biceps or if you want that big booty, that ghetto booty, I'm working on mine, then do the squats, right? Do squats or curls. If you want a good brain, then meditate. Learn how to turn it off or get out of that beta brainwave pattern. Get more into the alpha, the theta, the gamma. That's where you can really start turning things on. And then humans, we're one of the only species that can drop into delta patterns when we're sleeping. That's when our brain, it becomes so still that it's very active. That's the most active time, is when our brains are in this delta place where they can really recharge. That's where you get that release of serotonin, oxytocin. So one of the best ways of figuring out how your neurotransmitters are is do a simple P-test. And it's very easy. We use a lab called Labrinx. But these neurotransmitters are all dependent on your thyroid working well. They're all dependent on your adrenal glands working well. All these things can help you recover and regain your strength when it comes to fixing that brain fog. So let's talk just a little bit about thyroid. A lot of you have thyroid conditions. Now, the thyroid, what it does is it supports bone metabolism, your immune system, your brain and nervous system. It helps with gastrointestinal function, liver and gallbladder, especially the bile secretion. Helps with growth and sex hormones, fat burning, insulin, and it helps regulate healthy cholesterol levels as well as proper stomach acid. Now, if you want your brain to work, your thyroid's got to be turned on, because all the mitochondria in your brain, they depend on thyroid hormone to get activated. And interestingly enough, the mitochondria in your brain, the bacteria, the neurotransmitters, all these things are very well connected. So if you've got good mitochondria in your brain and mitochondrial function, your brain is not going to get foggy. Now, you need a hormone. You need the thyroid hormone. Not only does it help keep the mitochondria healthy, but it also stimulates it so that you can actually you can process more energy in those cells, and more energy in the cells means more energy in your brain, more energy in your organs, more energy in your body, so you feel like doing some great things. So one of the great herb is called Kanna. Kanna is a great way of working with the mitochondria, stimulating those. If you add Kanna in with lion's mane, which is one of the mushrooms that can help with supporting mitochondrial function, that's another great way that you can really turn on your brain and feel great, and it supports your thyroid and your metabolism. So hopefully I've given you some great things today. A couple books that I would recommend jumping into is The Big Pharma Conspiracy. It's by Max Fitzer. And the other book that I referenced today is The Rise of Superman. So jump into those. Feel those books. They're some of them are, they are very enlightening as far as the content goes. Very well written. And tell a friend about this. If you think someone's got brain fog, if you're in a conversation with them and you're like, man, they're just not picking up what I'm laying down, maybe you should stop being critical and just say, let's try and turn on your brain. So I hope you guys are doing great. Love you, and send in your comments. I love hearing them. And once again, this is Regan Archibald, and I will see you on the next show.